Governor Mills is calling for reforms to ICE in the aftermath of Monday's deadly shooting in Biddeford. In her letter, Governor Mills asked the delegation to act now to require ICE to respect the rule of law. She says this violence has to end before more families lose their loved ones. Yesterday, DHS ordered ICE agents to stop conducting traffic stops. However, today, President Donald Trump overturned that order. Governor Mills says the order was insufficient, but more has to be done.
I've said in my letter, I'll say it again, that's not even a half measure towards what should be happening to meet this moment. I've been asking for months for Congress to impose certain measures of accountability surrounding ICE, certain reforms. And if they can't do that, as I've said in my letter, then it should be abolished.
Both Senators Susan Collins and Angus King responded to the decision about traffic stops involving ICE. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, the agency, quote, cannot give up one of its most important and effective crime-fighting tools. Senator King called the decision a mistake, while Senator Collins insisted ICE should pause traffic stops.
It can be that in certain emergency situations that these traffic stops are warranted, but to have them routinely done when we have two recent shootings that raise very serious questions, to me calls for a halt in that approach for now.
The president's saying that there should end a moratorium on traffic stops?
It was a mistake. He made a mistake.
And a senior Department of Homeland Security official told NBC News ICE leadership was surprised by the president's post. They say it was the first time they were made aware of his position on the policy. And in Biddeford, two memorials for Johan Sebastian Guerrero are growing. One is at the intersection of Pool and Hill Streets, where the shooting happened. The other is at Mechanics Park, where people have held vigils and rallies the last few days. Throughout the day, many people stopped at both memorials to lay flowers, light candles, and leave notes. And while some of the mourners were from Maine, others traveled from out of state to see the memorial firsthand.
I have the means and the privilege and the capability to be able to come here and show my support, whether it's placing flowers here or attending the demonstrations that have been happening around the local community. It's important we do whatever is in our capacity right now to just stand up against this, because I mean, this community is so obviously grieving. Even just being here, this site in particular has such a heaviness to it.
I couldn't believe it. And when I heard more about how it wasn't even him that was, targeted, and he had a child and his wife, and and when I saw the video of them taking him out of the car.
And in a recent statement, Mayor Liam LaFountain said the city has received messages of support from across the country and around the world. And as Democrats in the state of Maine look to replace Graham Plattner in the race to represent Maine in the Senate, News Center Maine's hosting a debate with the candidates. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., they've been invited to join us to talk about their policy goals and what they do if they get elected, and how they'll run against longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins. All 9 of the candidates, yes, 9, who declared before 5 p.m. last night have been invited to take part. Our Rob Caldwell and Phil Hirschkorn will moderate from 7 to 9 on air and on our News Center Maine streaming app. Well, the House voted overwhelmingly last night to make daylight saving time permanent. The Sunshine Protection Act has the president's support, but it faces an uncertain future in the Senate. A nearly identical bill by the same name passed in the House in 2022, but it never made it to the Senate floor. Daylight saving time first clocked in during World War I as an attempt to conserve energy during the warmer months. And in the last 6 years, 19 states, including Maine, have already enacted legislation that would make daylight saving time permanent. But those laws can't take effect right now because of a federal law that only allows states to observe DST during the summer. Last year, the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee held a hearing to explore the possibility of eliminating the time change, either by establishing permanent daylight saving or ending it altogether.
This concept might have made sense in the early 20th century, when our economy and our homes relied much more heavily on energy consumption tied to daylight hours. Today, the data show energy savings from daylight savings time are de minimis, if not entirely non-existent.
We also know that being able to see the sun improves mental and physical health as well. But more than that, time changes can impact the safety of our communities. Darker commuting times increase the risk of injuries and even death on our way to school or work.
And eliminating the time change has strong support in Congress. Polls have repeatedly shown that Americans generally want it gone as well. But the biggest debate comes down to adopting permanent standard time that would allow for brighter mornings in the winter, or permanent daylight saving time that would allow for more light in the evening. If the Sunshine Protection Act were made law, cities like Detroit wouldn't see the sunrise in January until 9 a.m. But for us here in Maine, on the opposite edge of the Eastern time zone, we'd still see the January sun at about 8 a.m. if daylight saving was made permanent. Now, Maine's earliest winter sunsets would come at 4:30 p.m. rather than 3:30. But if we were on standard time right now, at nearly the peak of summer, you'd be seeing sunsets before 7:30 p.m. and sunrise at about 4 a.m. Standard time adoptions recommended by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. And most of the world does not observe daylight saving time. In the U.S., Hawaii and most of Arizona also stay on standard time all year.